As John Tuttle's story shows, the media has focused on the Rajneeshis because of their public statements. Did they really intend to take over Wasco County, or was it all a joke? And does that threat still exist?
Or will the state force the Rajneeshis to tear down the city they've built? To discuss these questions, we turn now to news analyst Floyd McKay and his guests. Floyd?
John Tuttle is joining me to discuss the happenings at the ranch, and also with us is Scott Miller, who's a reporter for KEZI TV in Eugene and has also been to Puna. John, was it all a joke? Was it a big joke by Sheila?
I don't think under any circumstances at all most people would perceive it as a joke. Certainly the homeless that were at Rajneeshpuram, who were told they were guaranteed an opportunity to vote on a question they thought was very important to them, they didn't look at it as a joke when Sheila spoke to them.
Wasco County didn't think it was a joke.
Absolutely not. Wasco County and the rest of Oregon certainly did not regard this as any sort of a joke.
And keep in mind the stakes that are involved here in terms of judging the seriousness of the matter. The matter is very serious for the Rajneeshis. The political makeup of the Wasco County Court could well determine the future of the city, and that means millions of dollars worth of investments down there. Right now you do have a planning director who states his intention to bulldoze some very, very expensive buildings, so it would make political sense for the Rajneeshis to want to exert as much control over Wasco County politics as possible.
Okay, well then what went wrong? They brought a whole lot of people out there. They appeared to be on the verge of taking them down to the courthouse and voting them. Then they withdrew. Did they miscalculate on the numbers?
That's hard to say. I've speculated on that matter myself. I think there may have been a miscalculation there. In terms of numbers, they needed to get X amount of people down there to make a difference. But it's possible that public opinion may have had something to do with it. I can't answer definitely, but I think there was a retraction from that position. John, you may have something.
I think that they may have miscalculated if, in fact, there had been plans for these people to come to the ranch to vote. They may have misjudged the character of the people they were bringing. A lot of those people were people with serious drug and alcohol problems. They were people who had customarily in times earlier might have been in mental institutions. They simply were not people that they could keep in their community.
Are they down to people that they can now have at the ranch and everything will work out? Do you think most of the, 2,000 people still there will be there 6 months from now?
They are the kind of people I think they could have at the ranch and maintain their community. They are finding work for those people. If they want to keep them, they can, and they probably would contribute to the community.
And keep in mind that the real bad apples, so to speak, have, for the most part, left. I'm sure they're going to run into some further problems, but they've managed to do a weeding out process. So they've got a group that they feel they can work with at any rate.
John, how does it change the nature of the commune itself? Is it a different type of person in general out there? Is the educational level down, for instance? Is it going to make any difference in the type of people we see out there?
Well, we don't have any firm statistics on it, but we know that obviously these people didn't come in with the basic community they started with was college educated, very intelligent, and they were people who were selected with specific purposes. They had contributions to make there at the ranch. These new people, it was sort of potluck, and you have a variety of Vietnam veterans, you have some people who were probably grade school dropouts, and college-educated people. It's suddenly a much wider selection of people. Someone described it to me as finally this place has a proletariat.
Who speaks for those people now? Sheila is a little bit less vocal, a little less volatile than she was. At one point it appeared that, now of course the Bhagwan is speaking now. Who's in charge out there?
I think the fact that Bhagwan is talking again shows that he is in charge, at least to a certain extent. Now, in terms of the day-to-day running of the commune, there are a number of people that have various areas of responsibility, sure, as you would imagine for a business that size. But I think Bhagwan speaking again was a very, very calculated maneuver that is designed to achieve certain purposes. It's designed to, as we've talked about earlier, it's designed to give something for the news media to grasp down on. But I think it also shows that perhaps there is somebody above Sheila who has the designs of that community in mind, that being Bhagwan himself.
It couldn't have been a coincidence that the day they decided not to vote, Bhagwan spoke.
If you're most Rajneesh watchers, I think, would come away with that assumption, that there was something very important happening. The very fact that Sheila said that she was no longer going to involve herself in politics, which is what she said at the time she announced it had been a joke. you may see a real change in who we hear talking for the Rajneeshis now. Certainly the things that Bhagwan is talking about indicate that he is increasingly aware of what's going on in the community. He's made references to that could only tie to the Donna Smith Quick trial. He's talking about county planning now. He's going to be very much involved.
Why do you think he started speaking now? Is it to hold the followers around the world, or what's it all about?
One suggestion I've heard voiced is it's a question of money. The fact is they spent an enormous amount of money bringing the homeless into Oregon. They bought the man camp at Chalice, Idaho, that's now going up in Antelope, Rajneesh. The transportation for the homeless, feeding them, caring for them, that's an awful lot of money.
The place is no way self-sufficient, is it? Even, especially adding 2,000 more people out there.
There's no chance of it ever becoming self-sufficient without festivals, without people coming in on a regular basis. And the draw is Bhagwan. There's a festival coming up in December, and with him speaking now, they should have an enormous turnout.
We're going to get tired of hearing him speak, do you think? Is it going to get boring now?
Well, for us or for the Oregonians in general?
Even for the commune.
That I don't think so. One observation I would have is that it's interesting if he becomes more of a political figure, if his discourses are more of a political nature, what that will do to the members of the commune. I mean, keep in mind that in the past he has talked about some very esoteric, religious and philosophical teachings that sometimes conflict, and he admits it. Now he's talking about some very specific issues, and it seems that even more so than in the past, his followers are going to have a clear signpost how they should believe on certain issues. So we may see even more unanimity out there than we've had in the past, if that's possible.
John, we talked about the financial costs. What about the costs in terms of community relations with this whole homeless thing? Did it break the possibility that we could all, quote, live together in harmony, this whole situation?
I don't know. It's difficult to read what's going on in Wasco County. It's difficult to really figure what the Rajneeshis' next step is, too. It may be that they think that now is the time for some compromise. The kind of statements we hear coming out haven't been the sort of thing we heard prior to in the last phases of Sheila's exercising the people to vote. There may be a change in the community there, and at that point there may be a way to work out.
Any lessons from Pune? What happened there?
Well, one thing that's very different in terms of the situation in Rajneeshpuram and the situation in Pune is that the Rajneeshis have a much greater degree of control over their community now. In Pune, they were in a city of 1 million people, and they attracted some people who had no interest really in the Bhagwan himself, but were just there because it was a happening thing to see. A lot of these people created some crime problems in Pune, really were responsible to a large extent for the first problems, law enforcement problems.
Do you think that was one reason they went to a place like the middle of north central Oregon?
No doubt about it. That's what they were looking for in India first. One of the first places they looked for in India was way over on the Pakistani border, a state called Gujarat. And that state is very, very isolated, very arid. Bhagwan has always had this theme of turning the desert green. It was far away from everywhere. Apparently, the Indian government vetoed that idea because it's too close to an enemy country, Pakistan. Then, after that, they looked outside Pune. Again, it was open country. And they'll be very candid that they want to get away from people, that there was conflict in Pune, and they wanted to avoid that in the future. They haven't.
John, what about some of the key elements in the future? The INS, that's got to come to a head, doesn't it? Whether Bhagwan can stay and the marriages that took place out there?
The marriages, there's an order out now. They have to come to some sort of a settlement with those people, and they have to do it very soon. It's a matter of months. I don't think they can delay much longer on Bhagwan himself. They have to make a decision. They've ruled he's a religious teacher. They owe him a decision.
How's his health? When he first came, of course, one of the reasons he came here on his visa was that he came here for medical purposes. When I saw him a year and a half or so ago, he appeared to be at least frail. How's he looking these days?
Rajneeshis will say he's doing much better. He's faring very well, and the forecast is he's supposed to live another 20 years.
And there has been a definite forecast.
Exactly.
He really believes in that sort of being able to predict ahead. Is there something unusual about this man? Someone said that maybe he's someone who has a fifth sense.
Well,
you get that feeling?
In the past, there have been a variety of historical figures who have been able to exert an amazing amount of power over people. And we're not, let's get away from brainwashing and hypnosis and all that, because I don't want to infer that. But just in the way their eyes look, the way they talk, call it extreme charisma, I guess, because it's not charisma in our traditional political sense.
He seems to have some of those elements.
Some of those qualities.
I noticed it,
Sure.
particularly his eyes. Is there something to that, do you think, John?
Well, he's certainly a charismatic person. I don't know whether it's actually communicated on television, but certainly what he did in Pune, he did on the basis of his sheer personality, I think.
Does that mean then that beyond Bhagwan there's no Rajneeshism, do you think? Can it survive his passing?
That's a question they've asked themselves. They made arrangements at the last festival last summer. There is no heir apparent, but there are committees set up. In the event Bhagwan dies, they think they're ready for it as much as they can prepare.
It's interesting because there's almost a conflict there, because the Rajneeshis are so be here now that it's almost against the very teachings to think about things like that, but of course they have to.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. Back to Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen. The future of the Rajneeshis rests in the courts and with the people of Oregon. Events in the months ahead will determine whether tensions ease and whether the Rajneeshis can live peacefully in Oregon.
We at News 8 will continue to bring you the story through nightly newscasts and special programs like this. For all of us at Channel 8, thank you for being with us, and good night.